if there's anybody in our set right now that could laugh a little bit at this, and it's sad, it's tragic, it's me, who spent 3.5 years defending the former president of the United States over this nonsense, and now we know because the FBI now, of course, 3.5 years later, arrests the guy that gave Steele the information that was then used for a FISA warrant to spy on American citizens, and it was all a put-up. And Bob Mueller had a $50 million investigation, and shockingly, he never could find this. Never could happen. And it took Bill Barr appointing Durham to investigate the investigators, and it now is yielding fruit. I mean, lawyers have been indicted on this because of information, but these were the Clinton people doing this. That's what's so amazing here, Wes.
It's a web of lies and deceit that includes the Clinton campaign, the Democratic National Committee, the FBI, the Russians, the FBI, and the legacy media who pushed this story over and over again.
And
it's probably the biggest political scandal in 100 years. In reality, maybe the biggest political scandal ever.
This was a pull-off. They were trying to put this off on the American people. This is what's so outrageous about this. Van, I'm wondering, there's so much stuff going on. We'll get into the reconciliation, the bills in a minute. But, we all lived through this. And now you look at it and you say to yourself, first of all, how did Bob Mueller miss this? I just, or his team. How they just, the guy that gave the information in this dossier that, remember that James Comey had to privately brief the president-elect on this salacious material, and Brennan said, do it, but don't do it in front of all of us. And James Comey, what a fraud in this whole thing. I mean, he signed these warrants and approved them, and it was now based on, they should have known this 3.5 years ago. Van?
Yeah, I mean, looking at it a little bit from the outside, Jay, I just don't see how Bob Mueller or James Comey could have missed it, Jay. I'm not convinced they did. I think maybe it was overlooked or intentionally set to the side. But look, I agree with the Wall Street Journal on this. They said all along we've been calling this the Steele dossier. It really should be called the Clinton dossier. I mean, Jay, I do think people on Capitol Hill today are maybe a little distracted by the political drama, but when they return to this, I think what they'll find conclusively clear is that this Russian collusion scheme from the very beginning, Jay, it was every bit the witch hunt, but it was more than a witch hunt. This was a collusion scheme for sure, but it was a collusion scheme that was run directly out of the Clinton campaign, and maybe even worse than that, Jay, as bad as that is, it was aided and abetted by the FBI.
I mean, Jordan, this is we dealt with this for 3.5 years. That's what's so unbelievable about this. 5 counts of false statements, but it was false statements about dealings with the Clinton campaign.
Yeah, these weren't any kind of like random false statements.
It wasn't like I wasn't here on this particular date.
No,
he
it
was.
was false statements about who he was dealing with, his sourcing, the information, the data. I mean, remember how nasty the allegations were against the president. Not only were they on the one hand, outrageous to say he's a Russian agent. He is like out of a movie. But then second, that he was performing these acts, which were so salacious. Remember, that's the word that was used by Comey. And yet, you would think that right away that would raise red flags, as it did for most people. That sounds absurd and just kind of made up. And that's what it was. I mean, that's what we're finding out. This guy went to the hotel room. I don't have to get the details. And just made it up based on he saw the
hotel room,
so he could describe it.
Turned it into part of this false narrative about what was going on with President Trump in that particular hotel room, without getting into the details. Only to say that's how he verified the hotel room by visiting
that a hotel room existed,
that it actually existed,
which obviously. You could learn online.
I want everybody that's listening, and if you're on any of our social media platforms, share this with your friends. For 3.5 years, we fought against this entire narrative, and this narrative that the Trump campaign was in collusion with the Russian government, when actually, when you look at it now, it was the Clinton campaign in collusion with an individual who was a Russian national to hurt the Trump campaign, and then pulled false information to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, which then resulted in a FISA warrant on American citizens. None of this is supposed to happen. Yet all of this was happening.